Welcome back everyone to another exciting edition of Air Law. And that was a stretch, but we'll get there. We've got a fair bit to crack out on this one. The exam lesson 2 part 1, airworthiness and aircraft equipment. Sadly the first part of every lesson is always kind of a big one. We've got a fair bit to cover and it's just painful, but we'll get on and see how we go. So, documentation is this section. Now we need to be able to state the documents which must be carried in aircraft operated in New Zealand under CAR 91. 91.111 covers the documents to be carried. And it says, except as provided in parts 103, 104 and 106, a person must not operate an aircraft unless the following documents are carried in the aircraft. 1. Except if Rule 91.101 applies, the current airworthiness certificate of a certified copy of the current airworthiness certificate. 2. The aircraft flight manual or an equivalent document acceptable to the director. Not that anyone knows what that means, but the aircraft flight manual must be there, and that gives you all of the things that are necessary for understanding what your peak performance ratios are, landing requirements, stall rates and everything else. That's why the aircraft flight manual has to be there. For New Zealand registered aircraft, the technical log is required under Rule 91.619, unless for aircraft operating under an air operator certificate from a fixed base, an alternative means is acceptable to the director, is used to inform the pilot of the maintenance status of the aircraft. Bearing in mind that whenever you do your pre-flight, anything that you find in that pre-flight should be written in the technical log to make sure that it gets addressed. So that is your communication pathway back to the engineer, so you can literally put in there cowling loose, and then the next time you jump into that aircraft you want to be able to see that it's been done. What else we got? A completed form, CAA 2173 weight and balance data or equivalent depending on the type of aircraft. A completed form CAA 2129, which is the aircraft or radio station equipment approval levels. Just means that you've got a working radio. For foreign aircraft operating within New Zealand, the current certificate of registration for the aircraft, or a certified copy of the certificate of registration, because if you're on a higher, using a higher plane, they won't give you the original, they'll always give you a certified copy that you'll carry around in that plane. And written evidence that the aircraft complies with the requirements of Rule 91.803 regarding aircraft noise level compliance and Rule 91.807 regarding engine emissions. So breaking that down, what that means is for New Zealand registered aircraft there are 5 documents. Remember that, because an exam question generally pops up that says out of these 6 things that we list, pick the ones that are required for New Zealand registered aircraft, and they may give you 6 options and they'll say, is it 1, 2, 3, 5 and 6, is it 1, 2, 3 and 4, is it 3, 4, 5, and generally you should be able to pick out the fact that actually there's only 5 documents required, so remember that and check first to see which one of those answers only lists 5. If they're smart, they'll give you 2 questions with 5, and then you need to go read through. Okay, yes, it does have aircraft technical log, current airworthy certificate of airworthiness, the technical log, but it doesn't have the aircraft radio station equipment approval. Okay, but it does have weight and balance, so you can deduce from that what the correct answer is. And so bearing in mind, we're just going to run through these quickly once more. The 5 documents that you must carry on board an aircraft: the current airworthiness certificate, the aircraft flight manual, Reason for that, current airworthiness, you want to be able to fly a plane that is currently registered as airworthy. Must be, otherwise you're not even going to take it off the ground. The aircraft flight manual, because it will carry all of the performance ratios, the stall limits and everything else, that's why you need the technical manual. The technical log to show that it has been serviced and that it contains all of the previously assessed notes to the engineer, and that they've all been addressed. The weight and balance data, so you understand where the datum is for your loading. Otherwise, when you throw stuff in there, how are you going to know that your luggage needs to be this in this position, this far behind the back seat? The aircraft radio station equipment approval, because you want to know that you've got a working radio. Now, if you've noticed on here, the compass isn't on there. It isn't listed. Oh, sorry, the compass corrective part. Now you will see that actually on your dash normally, so just bear that in mind. For a foreign aircraft operating in New Zealand, there are 4 documents that must be carried on board: the current airworthiness certificate, the aircraft flight manual, current certificate of registration, written evidence that the aircraft complies with aircraft noise level and engine emission compliances. Alright, so keep that in mind and we'll move on. 422, aircraft maintenance. Now, one of the things that we have to be able to do in the exam is describe the maintenance requirements of an aircraft operator under CAR 91. Now, 91603 covers the general maintenance requirements, and do expect to get questions on this in the exam as well. So, what we need to know: the operator of an aircraft must ensure that the aircraft is maintained in an airworthy condition, and every applicable airworthiness directive is complied with in accordance with the requirements prescribed in Part 39. The aircraft is inspected under this subpart, and, except for instruments and equipment that are permitted to be inoperative under Rule 91.537, every defect is rectified before flight, so there are nothing there that's still open. And an inoperative instrument or item of equipment that is permitted to be inoperable under 91.537 is repaired, replaced, removed, or inspected at the next inspection required by the maintenance program under which the aircraft is maintained. Bearing in mind there's multiple maintenance schedules that these things work under. Maintenance on an aircraft is performed in accordance with the requirements prescribed in this subpart, Part 43, and any other applicable rule, and the aircraft is certified for release to service under Part 43, which is where the engineer signs it off, after the performance and any maintenance on an aircraft, and every system that is required under subpart F for indicating the presence of carbon monoxide in the cabin of the aircraft is serviceable and within applicable lifetime limits. Under aircraft maintenance, we are expected to be able to describe the maintenance requirements for an aircraft operator under CAR 91. So, the operator of an aircraft must ensure compliance with the airworthiness limitations mandated by the Airworthiness Authority of the state of design in the instructions for continued airworthiness issued for that aircraft. Except as provided in paragraph D to F, the operator of an aircraft must ensure compliance with the manufacturer's recommended overhaul intervals, and for an aircraft that has a special category, exhibition worthiness certificate, or a special category limited airworthiness certificate, the replacement of a lifed component specified in the maintenance program for the aircraft. Also, products and components that may be operated beyond the manufacturer's recommended TBO. If the operator complies with the TBO, escalation procedures that are detailed in the maintenance program that is approved under Part 115 or Part 119, or approved under the Rule 91.607. Despite paragraph D, the one above, a piston engine fitted to an aircraft that is not used for hire or reward operation may be operated beyond the manufacturer's recommended TBO if the piston engine is maintained in accordance with the engine TBO escalation program that is acceptable to the director. We'll get on and explain that in a minute. Despite paragraph D, a propeller fitted to an aircraft that is not used for air operations may be operated beyond the manufacturer's recommended calendar TBO if the propeller is inspected in accordance with the methods acceptable to the director at 5 yearly intervals, except that propellers must be overhauled at the manufacturer's recommendations recommended operating hours TBO. Right. 422.4. State the requirements for the annual and 100-hour inspections under Car 91. Now, subject to paragraphs B, C and D, the operator of an aircraft must maintain the aircraft under 1. A maintenance program approved under Part 115, 2. A maintenance program approved under Part 119, 3. A maintenance program approved under Rule 91607, or 4. The manufacturer's maintenance schedule. And if all that doesn't apply, if the aircraft is powered by a piston engine and has an acceptable MCTO of 2730 kilograms or less, a maintenance program that is acceptable to the director and includes at least the following: details of the responsibilities and standards for the maintenance of an aircraft in accordance with the applicable rule requirements, details of pre-flight checks, details of scheduled maintenance checks and inspections, the operator of the aircraft, of an aircraft that is used for air operations under the authority of an air operator certificate issued under the director under Act and Part 119, must maintain the aircraft under the maintenance program that is required under Part 119 for the issue of an air operator's certificate. Used for adventure aviation operations under the authority of an adventure aviation operator certified certificate that's been issued by the director under that Act and Part 115, and must maintain the aircraft under the maintenance program that is required by Part 115 for the issue of the adventure aviation operator certificate. So this is where we were talking earlier about there's various parts that it falls under. Part 119 and Part 115, these are for reward companies that are either leasing out the planes or using the planes piloted to be able to perform particular services for payment. Now, going on, issued with a special category of airworthiness certificate must maintain the aircraft under a valid maintenance program approved under the Rule 91607 for the holder of the certificate of registration for that aircraft. If the manufacturer's maintenance schedule referred to in paragraph A4 does not provide for an aircraft that operates for less than 100 hours of time in service per year, the operator must ensure that the manufacturer's 100-hour inspection or an equivalent inspection is completed within the preceding 12 months. So, 100 hours or 12 months, remember that. If the director determines that the manufacturer's maintenance schedule referred to in paragraph A4 is deficient, the director may require the operator to submit a maintenance program for approval under 91607. Except as provided in paragraph F and Rule 91611, the operator of an aircraft must not operate that aircraft unless every compass that is required to be installed in the aircraft under subpart F has been calibrated within the preceding 24 months and following any out-of-phase event that may have affected the calibration of the compass unless the aircraft manufacturer specifies otherwise. As well, every first aid kit that is required to be installed in the aircraft under subpart F has been inspected within the preceding 12 months to ensure that the appropriate quantities and items included around the time expiry are replaced, and after every reported use to ensure that the appropriate quantities of the items are correct and included. Every portable fire extinguisher that is required to be installed in an aircraft under subpart F has been inspected for condition and tested in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions or equivalent instructions acceptable to the director within the preceding 12 months. So, first aid kit, 12 months. Fire extinguisher, 12 months. Compass, 24 months. All flotation equipment that is required to be installed in the aircraft under subpart F has been inspected for condition and tested in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions or the equivalent instructions acceptable to the director within the preceding 12 months. And the aircraft's empty weight and centre of gravity is re-established if changes have been made to the aircraft that could affect the empty weight and the centre of gravity, or the operator has any reason to suspect that the information in the aircraft's flight manual is no longer accurate. Addition of stuff, the taking away of stuff in there will all affect the weights and balance. For powered aircraft with maximum certified seating capacity of 4 or more seats, the aircraft has been weighed within the preceding 10 years. Now, another thing to keep in mind here, it's not about amount of passengers, it's the amount of seats allocated to that aircraft. So, moving on. The operator of an aircraft that is maintained under a maintenance program referred to in paragraphs A1 or A2 is not required to comply with any particular requirement in the paragraph E if the maintenance program for the aircraft includes a test, inspection or other action that is equivalent to the particular requirements in paragraph E. The operator of an aircraft must identify in the maintenance logbook for the aircraft which maintenance option under paragraph A is to be used for that aircraft. If the maintenance program is one that is approved under Part 119 or approved under Rule 91607, identify in the maintenance program the person who is responsible for scheduling the maintenance that is required in that program. And if changing from the maintenance program or option identified under paragraph 1 to another program or option under paragraph A, schedule the inspections required by the new program or schedule to provide for the continued airworthiness condition of that aircraft. And provide a copy of the applicable maintenance program or schedule to the person who performs the maintenance on the aircraft and, upon request, to the director. 422.4. State the requirements for the annual 100-hour inspection CAR 91. The tests and inspections required by paragraphs E1, E2I, E3, and the 12-month test and inspection requirements in paragraph E4IA do not need to be performed if the aircraft has been inspected for the grant of an airworthiness certificate under section 9 of the Act, and the applicable equipment was installed in the aircraft when the inspection specified in paragraph 1 was performed. What that means, Part 91605C states that you must carry out a 100-hour check every 12 months or 100 hours, whichever comes first. So, yes, you've got to do it every 100 hours. If you haven't used 100 hours of flight time within that 12-month period, it is going to be on the 12-month cycle. Alright, keep that in mind. Common question. 422.6, we need to be able to state the requirement for a review of airworthiness under CAR 91. So, except as provided in paragraphs B and C, a person must not operate an aircraft unless a review of airworthiness of the aircraft has been certified as completed in accordance with subpart D of Part 43 within the preceding 365 days, 12 months or 1 year, or for an aircraft that has a special category airworthiness certificate that is not operated for hire or reward the preceding 730 days, or the aircraft has been issued with an airworthiness certificate in accordance with Part 21 within the preceding 365 days. The paragraph A does not apply to an aircraft that is operated in accordance with following parts under the authority of an air operator certificate issued in accordance with Part 119, and that is Part 121, Part 125 and Part 135 if the aircraft is subject to maintenance review in accordance with the Rule 135415. Maintenance records. An operator of an aircraft except a Class 1 microlight aeroplane must ensure that for each airframe and each product and component that has a finite life or a TBO recommended by the manufacturer, accurate records are compiled in the appropriate maintenance logbook for the total time in service and, if applicable, total cycles. An operator of an aircraft except a Class 1 microlight aeroplane must ensure that for each product and component, the maintenance records required under Rule 4369 are compiled and retained. An operator of an aircraft that is involved in an accident must ensure that descriptive details of the circumstances of an accident and descriptive details of the resultant damage to the aircraft are recorded in the appropriate maintenance logbooks. The records required in paragraph A, B and C may be kept in plain language form or in coded form, provided that the coded form provides for the preservation and retrieval of information that is required to be recorded. Now, what that means is you must keep maintenance logbooks for the airframe and other parts of the aircraft which have a finite life, so an expiry date. So engine, propeller, and other bits and pieces. These are all listed as almost time to live components. These have a set time, whether it be measured in dates or usage hours. These records must be retained if the aircraft is in an accident, and the details must be recorded in a maintenance logbook. 422.10 state the requirements for and the contents of a technical log. 422.12 state the requirements for entering defects into a technical log, and 422.14 state the requirements for clearing defects from a technical log. So, Car 91 619 technical log says, except as provided in paragraph C, the operator of an aircraft must provide a technical log for the aircraft with a provision for recording the following information. 1. Name of the operator, registration mark, type, model of the aircraft, the identity of the maintenance program, or the schedule required under 91605 to which the aircraft is maintained. A statement of the maintenance status of the aircraft, including the identity of the next scheduled inspection and the date or hours due. Any requirements under 43103 for an operational flight check to be carried out. The date for hours at which any other maintenance is due prior to the next scheduled inspection. The date at which the scheduled annual review of airworthiness or maintenance review is due. The daily hours flown, the total time in service, and if applicable, the daily cycles used and the total cycles. So there's a little quick copy snippet of the standard technical log. You've all seen them, just make sure that you check them. Any defects found during the pre-flight inspection, during a flight or following a flight needs to be entered into there. The details of rectification of defects that occur between scheduled inspections and certification for release to service for the rectification. Details of any deferred rectification of defects, including any instruments and equipment that are inoperative in accordance with Rule 91.537. The operator of an aircraft must ensure that the information specified in paragraph A is accurately recorded in the technical log and that the information is current. The holder of an air operator certificate issued in accordance with Part 119 may record the following information in a format other than in the technical log, if that format and the associated procedures are acceptable to the director and the information is accurate and available to the pilot in command on request. So 1. The identity of the next schedule, inspection and date or hours due. The date or hours at which any other maintenance is due prior to the next scheduled inspection. The total time in service and the total cycles. Breaking that down, the technical log is one of the 5 documents that must be carried on an aircraft. It should contain the information we have discussed, which includes information on which maintenance program or schedule the aircraft is being maintained under and when the next check is due by date or hours. Additionally, any defects found during the pre-flight inspection, in flight or after flight must be entered into the technical log. These defects must then be rectified and the aircraft released back into service before flight. Or, if the defect cannot be fixed at this time, the defect must be deferred before flight. If the defect cannot be deferred, the aircraft must not fly as the defect is still not fixed. So, we also need to be able to state the limitations and requirements on a person undertaking pilot maintenance, and this is under CAR 43. Now, Part 4351 covers the persons to perform maintenance, and it says, subject to paragraph C, a person who does not meet the requirements of paragraph A but holds any of the following licenses may perform the maintenance specified in Appendix A1 on an aircraft that is used to perform air operations under the authority of an air operating certificate issued in accordance with Part 119, or may perform the maintenance specified in Appendix 1A and A1 and A2 on the aircraft that is not used to perform air operations. Number 1, and this is important, a current pilot license with an aircraft type rating for that aircraft issued in accordance with Part 61. You are allowed to be able to perform some maintenance. A current aircraft maintenance engineer license is issued in accordance with Part 66. A current aircraft maintenance engineer license issued by the Civil Aviation Authority of New Zealand or Australia, if the license is registered by the Director of New Zealand under the Trans-Tasman Mutual Recognition Act. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, there is an appendix attached to this which covers maintenance performed by a person under Rule 4351, and this is A1 aircraft used to perform air operations. And it states the following maintenance may be performed by a person under Rule 4351B on an aircraft that is used to perform air operations under the authority of an air operator certificate under the Acts and under Part 119, or an adventure aviation certificate issued under the Acts and Part 115. And the things that covers you for is greasing and lubrication that do not require disassembly other than removal of access panel, fairing or cowls. 2, you can replace the aircraft battery. 3, you can replace fuses and lights. 4, you can do GPS equipment maintenance, including the installation and removal of GPS receivers if the receiver has a quick disconnect capability, and any subsequent test requirements are built into the receiver, and the applicable information for the installation and removal of that receiver is immediately available. And the routine updating of GPS receiver database information you can do the compressor washing if the installation of the wash equipment does not require the disassembly of any primary engine control systems. The applicable information for the washing is immediately available and includes procedures for the installation and removal of any washing equipment, and the safe operation of the engine during the wash runs and any necessary drying runs that need to be performed. Installation and removal of seats, doors and roll equipment if the configuration of the aircraft with the particular equipment installed or removed has been approved. The flight manual incorporates the necessary information for the safe operation of the aircraft with the equipment installed or removed, including weight and balance data for each configuration. The applicable information for the installation and removal of the equipment is immediately available. No special tooling, and that's always a good one to remember, no special tooling, special equipment or subsequent inspection is required. The completion of repetitive airworthiness directive inspections between scheduled maintenance inspections if the airworthiness directive states that a pilot may complete the inspection and any conditions stated in the airworthiness directive are complied with, and no special tooling or special equipment is required. You can do the replenishment of engine oils. You can do the deferral of defects relating to inoperative instruments and equipment if the aircraft can be operated with inoperative instruments and equipment in accordance with Rule 91.537. The performance of routine maintenance that is intended by the aircraft manufacturer to be performed by a pilot, provided no special tooling or equipment is required. You're also allowed to do the operation of the self-text function on the 406 MHz ELT. The following maintenance, in addition to the maintenance listed in Appendix A1, may be performed by a person under 4351B on an aircraft that is not used to perform air operations. So you can take care of the replacement of the landing gear, tyres and tail skid shoes. Simple or temporary fabric patch repairs. The repair is not applied to any flight control surfaces, and the repair does not require the removal of any control surfaces or structural parts. And the repair does not involve restringing or rib stitching. Restoration of damaged or worn decorative coatings and application of preservative or protective material to components. If the work does not involve the removal or disassembly of any of the primary structure, the disturbance of any operating system, or the restoration, preservation or protection of control surfaces, or a significant repaint of the aircraft. Under the Appendix 2 part, aircraft not used to perform air operations, simple or temporary repairs to the fairings or non-structural cover plates, replacement of hydraulic fluid in hydraulic reservoirs, replacement of engine oil, replacement of pressure oil filters, removal and replacement of turbine engine igniters, removal and replacement of piston engine spark plugs, and removal and replacement of brake pads. 422.18 requires us to be able to state the requirements for conducting an operational flight check on an aircraft under CAR 91. And it says, a person may operate an aircraft that does not have a current airworthiness certificate for the purpose of demonstrating the eligibility of the aircraft for the issue, renewal, or reinstatement of the airworthiness certificate if a type certificate or type acceptance certificate for the aircraft type is in force in accordance with subpart B of part 21. The aircraft complies with the requirements prescribed in Rule 21.191, and a person meeting an applicable requirement in Rule 43.101, Part A1 to 5, certifies that the aircraft is fit for flight. The pilot in command is the holder of an appropriate current pilot license and type rating or validation permit issued in accordance with Part 61 for the aircraft, and no other person is carried unless that person performs an essential function in connection with the operation. This means an aircraft that has lost its airworthiness certificate, i.e. had a crash, or never had one, brand new, and it's literally just dropped into New Zealand, is able to be flown to prove that an airworthiness certificate should be issued. An engineer must certify the flight. The pilot must hold a current pilot license and type rating for the aircraft, or a validation permit to fly the aircraft. No one, absolutely no one else is allowed on board this flight unless they are required for the flight. I.e., an engineer could be on board to check something is fixed, but not a passenger coming along for the ride. It's a little bit ambiguous, right? I know that there have been some questions out there that turn around and say you are verifying the flight for airworthiness and an engineer wants to come along and he did some of the work on that. Should he be allowed to come or shouldn't he? If he is validating the fix or the repair that he's performed, then yes. If not, then no. We need to be able to state the inspection period for radios under CAR 91. So 91.605 covers the maintenance programs and schedules. And except as provided in paragraph F and rules 91.611, the operator of an aircraft must not operate the aircraft unless every aircraft radio station that is required to be installed in the aircraft under said Part F for operation under IFR had been tested and inspected under Part 43 Appendix B within the preceding 24 months. The operator of an aircraft that is maintained under a maintenance program referred to in paragraphs A1 and A2 is not required to comply with any particular requirement in paragraph E if the maintenance program for the aircraft includes a test, inspection, or other action that is equivalent to the particular requirements in paragraph E. Unless, under 91.611 inspection planning latitude. So, unless expressly prohibited by these rules, an airworthiness directive or a manufacturer's mandatory inspection requirement, the inspection intervals required by Rule 91.605 may extend by up to 10% to allow for the maintenance planning purposes. If the extension provision of paragraph A are applied to an aircraft, the new extended date or aircraft operating hours or cycles, whichever is applicable for the inspection, must be recorded in the appropriate maintenance logbook or technical log. And the next required inspection interval must start from the beginning of the extension period to ensure that the extension that is applied to an inspection interval is not cumulative. Now, what that means, broken down into good old plain English. Paragraph F states if maintenance is being carried out under Part 115 or 119, the above paragraph E does not apply. Rule 91.611 states that a 10% extension can be applied to allow for maintenance planning purposes, and this extension must be recorded in the maintenance logbook or technical log. This extension cannot keep accumulating. Radios must be tested and inspected within the preceding 24 months for operations under IFR. Now, under 4.22.22, we are expected to state the inspection periods for altimeters under CAR 91, and that's covered in 91.605, the maintenance programs and schedules. And it says that except as provided in paragraph F and Rule 91.611, the operator of an aircraft must not operate the aircraft unless every static pressure system, altimeter instrument, or automatic pressure altitude reporting system that is required to be installed in the aircraft under subpart F or required for an SSR transponder installed in the aircraft has been tested and inspected under Part 43 Appendix D. Within the last 24 months and following an opening and closing of the static pressure system, except for the use of system drain and alternate static pressure valves or where self-sealing disconnect coupling is provided. The following installation of or maintenance on the automatic pressure altitude reporting system where data correspondence error could be introduced, and it goes on to say, but this means altimeters must be tested and inspected within the last 24 months. If the static pressure system has been opened and closed, or there has been a new installation of maintenance on the automatic pressure altitude reporting system, the static system must be tested and inspected. And except as provided in paragraph F and Rule 91.611, the operator of an aircraft must not operate the aircraft unless every SSR transponder that is required to be installed in the aircraft under subpart F has been tested and inspected under Part 43 Appendix E within the preceding 24 months. Meaning SSR transponders and radios must be tested, inspected, and in all otherwise given a tick in the box within the last 24 months. We are expected to state the normal inspection period for the ELT under CAR 91, and that again is covered in the maintenance programs and schedules, and it says except as provided in paragraph F and Rule 91.611, the operator of an aircraft must not operate the aircraft unless every ELT that is required to be installed in the aircraft under subpart F has been tested and inspected under Appendix F, Part 43, within the past 12 months or 100 hours of aircraft time in service, whichever is the sooner, or from an aircraft maintained under a maintenance program required by Rule 11963, the scheduled intervals, which must not be for more than 12 months, as described in the approval maintenance program, and has been tested in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions within the previous 24 months, and has the battery replaced in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions when the life of the battery, as established by the manufacturer, has expired. That means that ELTs must be tested and inspected within the previous 12 months or 100 hours of aircraft time in service, whichever comes first. Or, if maintained under Part 119, at scheduled intervals not exceeding 12 months. A test in accordance with manufacturer's instructions must be carried out within the previous 24 months. The battery for the ELT is considered expired at a date set by the manufacturer, even if the ELT appears to be working. Now, let's see what we can remember. And if you managed to stay awake, congratulations. Also, I want to give a big hi and congratulations to Darren, who follows these. He's just passed his FRTO exam, so congratulations, Darren. It was good to catch up, stay in touch, and keep watching. So, let's have a look. What documents must be carried on board a New Zealand registered aircraft? Is it A, airworthiness certificate, technical log, certificate of registration, written evidence of noise level and engine emission compliance? Is it B, airworthiness certificate, technical log, aircraft flight manual, CAA 2173 weight and balance data, and CAA 2129 aircraft radio station equipment approval levels? Is it C, airworthiness certificate, technical log, certificate of registration, 2173 weight and balance, 2129 aircraft radio equipment approval levels? Or is it D, airworthiness certificate, aircraft flight manual, 2173 weight and balance, and 2129 aircraft radio and equipment? Yes. Airworthiness certificate, technical log, aircraft flight manual, weight and balance, and radio station equipment. Right. Only those 5 documents are required by law to be carried on board the aircraft. Do what you can to memorise it. You are bound to get a question that relates to that. Your aircraft must have a 100-hour check performed on it every 100 hours, or how many months? Whichever comes first. What time period must the check be carried out if the aircraft has not reached 100 hours? Is it A, 3 months, B, 12 months, C, 24 months, D, 36 months? Yes, 12 months. Part 91.605 states that you must carry out a 100-hour check every 12 months or 100 hours, whichever comes first. Can you operate an aircraft after the day its review of airworthiness is required? Absolutely no. Yes, you can continue to operate the aircraft in emergencies only. Yes, for no longer than 36 days, or if operating the aircraft is for the purpose of the review of airworthiness to be completed. Or yes, for no longer than 15% of the time after the review was done. Yes. For no longer than 36 days, 10% of a calendar year. So technically it's 36 and a half days. But 36 days, or if operating the aircraft is for the purpose of the review of the airworthiness to be completed and issued. What should you do if you notice a defect in part of an aircraft during your walk around or pre-flight? A. Inform the operator of the aircraft and do not operate the aircraft. Inform the operator of the aircraft you may still operate the aircraft. Enter the details of the defect into the aircraft flight manual, or enter the details of the defect in the aircraft's technical log. Yes, D. Any defects found during the pre-flight inspection, in flight, or after the flight must be entered into the technical log. How will you know if a defect has been looked at and cleared by an engineer? A. The operator of the aircraft will inform you the aircraft is safe to fly. B. You must check the aircraft has been released to service in the flight manual. C. You must check the aircraft has been released to service in the technical log. Or D. You must check the aircraft has been released to service, or that the defect has been deferred in the technical log. Yes. Can be released to service, or that the defect has been deferred. The defects must then be rectified, fixed, and the aircraft released to service before flight. If the defects cannot be fixed at the time, the defect must be deferred before flight and recorded in the technical log. If the defect cannot be deferred, the aircraft must not fly until it is fixed. In order to carry out pilot maintenance, what must you hold? A. Current medical and pilot's license. B. Current pilot's license and type rating on the aircraft. C. Current security ID, pilot's license and medical. Or D. A current pilot's license and maintenance registration certificate. Current pilot's license and type rating on the aircraft. Only the following may conduct maintenance on an aircraft. 1. A current pilot license with an aircraft type rating for that aircraft, issued in accordance with Part 61. A current aircraft maintenance engineer license, issued in accordance with Part 66. A current aircraft maintenance engineer license, issued under the Civil Aviation Safety Authority of Australia, if the license is registered by the Director in New Zealand under the Trans-Tasman Mutual Recognition Act. Are you allowed to perform pilot maintenance to remove the engine spark plugs on an aircraft performing air operations? A. No. B. No, except if the aircraft has been checked by an engineer in the last 5 hours. C. Yes, as long as the removal is carried out after hours. I suppose that means not in flight. And D. Yes, anytime. No, because it's used for performing air operations. No. Under Appendix A2, you cannot perform spark plug removal as it requires a special tool, special equipment, or subsequent inspection that's required. So that special tool thing really does come into play. If you need a special tool to do the job, no, you can't do it. If an aircraft needs to be flown on an operational flight check to ensure that it is airworthy, who can be on board the aircraft? A. A pilot with a type rating and current license only. B. A pilot with a type rating and current license and an engineer. C. A pilot with a type rating, current license and instructor rating and engineer. Or D. Anyone can be on board as long as they are aware that the flight is an operational check flight. An aircraft that has lost its airworthiness certificate or never had one is able to be flown to prove that an airworthiness certificate should be issued. An engineer must certify the flight. The pilot must hold a current pilot license and type rating for the aircraft, or a separate validation permit to fly the aircraft. No one else is allowed on board this flight unless they are required for the flight, i.e. an engineer could be on board to check something is fixed, but a passenger cannot come along for the ride. What is the inspection period for radios and transponders? Is it inspected within the preceding 6 months? Within the preceding 12 months? Within the preceding 24 months? 365 days or 100 hours, whichever comes first. 24 months. SSR transponders and radios must be tested and inspected within the preceding 24 months. So, transponders and radios, 24 months. What is the inspection period for altimeters? Inspect within the preceding 12 months, within the preceding 6 months, 12 months, 24, or 365, or 100 hours, whichever comes first. Altimeters must be tested and inspected within the preceding 24 months if the static pressure system has been opened and closed, or there has been a new installation or maintenance on the automatic pressure altitude reporting system. The static system must be tested and inspected. Oh, and that jumped straight in there. So, at least we know the answer. What is the inspection period for ELTs not maintained under Part 119? And that is the 12 months, 365 days, or 100 hours, whichever comes first. ELTs must be tested and inspected within the previous 12 months or 100 hours of aircraft time in service. If maintained under Part 119, at scheduled intervals not exceeding 12 months, a test in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions must be carried out within the previous 24 months. The battery of the ELT is considered expired at a date set by the manufacturer, even if the ELT appears to be working. Well done for getting through. Congratulations to Darren. Please like, subscribe, and sign for updates. But most importantly, don't forget to share. Safe pilots keep learning. Share this information. Share with the people who are going through their various courses. Share the love. That's what flying is all about. And we're always learning from each other. Stay safe, fly right, and we will talk again soon.